The tragedy that befell 11-year-old Adrianna Younge has shocked communities worldwide. The girl went missing during a family trip, and 20 hours later, her lifeless body was found in the very pool that had been thoroughly searched multiple times. This chilling incident in Guyana has raised serious questions about police actions and the possibility of a cover-up. A wave of protests has swept across different continents, with people demanding answers. This is not a work of fiction, but a real story that has stirred up the international community and raised issues of justice in Guyana. One might wonder if there was a way to prevent this tragedy. Reality surpasses any fictional scenario. It is an oppressive and alarming situation surrounding the death of Adrianna Younge, a case that has compelled thousands of people in various parts of the world to seek the truth. April 23, 2025, was supposed to be a day of joy and family unity at the Doubleday International Hotel in the city of Tuschen, Guyana. Instead, it turned into an event that shocked the entire country and reached far beyond its borders. 11-year-old Adrianna Younge came to the hotel pool along with her grandmother and other relatives. After purchasing tickets, she was last seen near the water shortly after 1:10 p.m. 2 hours passed. Adrianna had vanished. At 3:30 p.m., her frightened family turned to the Tuschen Police Department, pleading for help in searching for the girl. Subsequent events raised questions about investigative procedures, possible inconsistencies, and the potential involvement of influential individuals in shaping the official version of the child's death. Imagine how you would feel if government officials kept changing their explanations regarding your child's disappearance. You are desperately searching for her for almost an entire day. And now, imagine that you found her yourself when the authorities proved incapable of doing so. This is the devastating reality faced by Adrianna's father, Adrianna Younge. Nearly 20 hours after reporting her missing, on the morning of April 24, Adrianna found his daughter in the same pool that had been repeatedly searched before. Her body was floating in the water, with noticeable marks on her face and limbs, suggesting that there might be more to this than just an accidental drowning. The horrifying discovery occurred during an ongoing protest when community members had gathered to demand a more thorough investigation. A series of questions arise: how could this happen? How could a body suddenly appear in a pool that had been meticulously examined by several people? Even more alarming was the initial statement by the Guyanese police, which claimed that Adrianna had supposedly left the hotel in a red and black Toyota Ram heading towards Friedenhoop. Later, this statement was retracted, and law enforcement acknowledged their significant error. Think about it for a moment. While the family was desperately searching for their daughter, the police were directing them to look for a vehicle that probably never existed. What do we demand? Justice. Justice for whom? For Adrianna. This call quickly spread through neighborhoods, cities, and eventually across oceans. Interestingly, an incident had previously occurred at the Doubleday Hotel. In a similar situation that few people talk about, back in 2012, a young man named Sadiq German was found dead under suspicious circumstances in the same pool. An examination of his body revealed injuries and signs of a possible struggle, similar to those found on the body of young Adrianna. And that's not all. The owner of the Doubleday Hotel, Bajnarin Bola, had previously faced accusations in connection with the German case in that same pool. Although Bola was acquitted in 2017 due to allegedly insufficient evidence, this pattern deserves closer scrutiny. Numerous sources suggest that Bola and his family may be involved in dubious affairs, including allegations of fraud in the United States and Canada. Could this be a mere coincidence? Is it possible that the authorities were aware of potential issues but failed to take appropriate preventive measures? We don't go to the pool, we go to the river behind. I can't swim, but the father would take them there, and they would bathe. There were 5 or 6 people in the pool who were diving, combing the bottom, and searching, so she could never, ever have been there. These are the emotional words of Adrianna's mother, Amisha Asaman, who vehemently rejects the possibility that her daughter accidentally drowned in that pool. The pain in her voice is evident when she talks about her child. Adrianna's parents expressed concern about the initial autopsy performed by the government-appointed Barbadian pathologist, Dr. Shubhaker Karapal, who concluded that the girl had died from drowning. They are insisting on an independent investigation, hiring additional experts to conduct their own examinations. For me, although he says he will achieve justice and everything else, he doesn't even respond to our request for an independent investigation, Amit Shah noted, referring to the statements made by President Irfan Ali. The family's concerns appear well-founded. Through their lawyer, they have sought international assistance, particularly calling on organizations such as the FBI, Scotland Yard, or the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to oversee the investigation. The family has no trust in the Guyana police force to conduct an impartial and thorough investigation, their statement reads. Imagine how you would feel if you had to challenge the very system that should be protecting your child. The condition of Adrianna's body immediately raised questions that demand attention. Her mother noticed something particularly alarming that the authorities seem reluctant to address. The question remains, she drowned, but where did she drown? Alright, I'm not disputing that if they say she drowned, but the question is where she drowned, how, and due to whose fault. What are those marks on her skin? She continued with growing emotion. When my child was out of that pool, up until the moment I identified the body before the autopsy began, you couldn't see those marks, her face had darkened, so it couldn't have been from drowning at all. There are only two options, either they removed the cotton at the hospital, or it happened at Mr. Ezekiel's salon. Because when the body was taken to Balwant Singh for scanning and other procedures, the cotton that I saw with my own eyes had disappeared, Amisha recalled in a broken voice. What circumstances could explain the presence of cotton in the nose of a person who supposedly drowned? And why have potentially important pieces of evidence suddenly become unavailable? The tragic event reverberated far beyond Guyana, triggering an unprecedented reaction from the global community. From New York and Toronto to London, Barbados, Jamaica, and Suriname, Guyanese communities and their allies gathered in hundreds for candlelight memorial services, emotion-filled marches, and heartfelt commemorative events. This situation united people across borders. In Brooklyn, crowds chanted, "Say her name." Adrianna, proudly holding the golden arrow, the flag of Guyana, their voices echoing through the city streets. Meanwhile, in Brixton, London, grieving people sang hymns and lit candles that illuminated the night. In Barbados, a solemn book of condolences was opened in memory of Adrianna, its pages filled with words of support and calls for accountability. Back home in Guyana, memorial lights were lit across the country, from Mabaruma in Region 1 and Anai in Region 9 to New Amsterdam, London, Kwakwani, and countless other places. This created a nationwide expression of grief and an unwavering demand for answers. The Guyanese Rights of the Child Commission released a powerful statement that reflected the sentiments of the nation. Justice for Adrianna is not up for discussion, it is a moral imperative. Have you ever witnessed the death of a single child uniting so many people across different continents in calls for justice? In response to growing public concern, President Irfan Ali promised full support for an independent investigation. Assistant Commissioner of Police Khalid Mundal was immediately removed from his position as head of Regional Police Division 3 and replaced by Assistant Commissioner of Police Mahendra Siram. But there are other points to consider. Online discussions have raised questions about potential conflicts of interest, which, if confirmed, could be crucial to this case. Some sources claim that the hotel owner, Bajnarine Bola, may be related to President Ali. Could such connections have potentially influenced why certain aspects of accountability seem to be lacking and why some evidence may no longer be available? Meanwhile, according to reports, the hotel owners have left Guyana amid the growing public reaction, an act that some consider suspicious for people who supposedly have nothing to hide. Local residents, expressing their frustration with what many perceive as institutional shortcomings, allegedly participated in protests near the Leonora police station. It is reported that during the 12-hour demonstration, damage was caused to the hotel and the owner's residence, although these incidents officially remain unconfirmed. When there may be connections between those in power and individuals involved in the case, how might this affect the pursuit of truth? The search for answers continues with growing determination. Despite the Medical Council of Guyana postponing its decision on granting permission for Trinidadian forensic pathologist Dr. Hubert Daisley to practice in Guyana, Adrianna's steadfast family has decided to conduct a second autopsy in the United States. The family is at a stage where they are not interested in the government's opinion. They want to know the truth, explains the family's lawyer, Dr. Dexter Todd, in a firm and resolute voice. He reports that urgent preparations are already underway to transport Adrianna's body to the U.S. for further examination. If they find out the truth and can say, "All right, I'm satisfied," then even if the authorities don't use this information for prosecution or anything else, we know how to proceed in the legal field. The Medical Council referred to new information that caught their attention regarding Dr. Daisley, creating an additional obstacle in the family's path to answers. But they refuse to give up. Each delay, each challenge along their path only strengthens their determination to find clarity in what happened. As this deeply moving case unfolds before our eyes, questions continue to accumulate. How could a body suddenly appear in a pool that had been searched multiple times by different people, including a swimming instructor? Why did the police initially provide information that Adrianna had left in a vehicle, directing the search in the wrong direction during crucial hours? What could explain the marks on Adrianna's body which, as her mother insists, did not correspond to signs of drowning? Why was there cotton in the girl's nose, and where did it disappear to before the autopsy? Is there a connection between previous incidents at the hotel, particularly the death in the same pool earlier, and this tragedy? Are the discussions about the possible ties between the hotel owner and those in power substantiated? And perhaps the most important question, will Adrianna and her family ever receive the answers and justice they so desperately seek? As preparations continue for the funeral scheduled for Monday, May 5, 2025, at the Virgin Ogun tarmac, the search for truth persists relentlessly. Adrianna's aunt, Amika Lewis, has called for a peaceful burial, explaining that while some are planning protests and want to postpone the funeral until another autopsy is performed, we disagree with such actions and do not approve of them. We will bury Adrianna in peace on Monday. But the calls for justice are growing louder with each passing day, in cities, countries, and continents. For young Adrianna Younge, a child whose life was cut short so tragically and whose death raises profound questions about protection, accountability, and justice in Guyana. This is not just a local tragedy. This case has awakened something powerful, uniting a nation and its diaspora in a shared demand that cannot be silenced. Justice for Adrianna. Justice that is not subject to negotiation. Justice that must be restored. Now the question remains, will those involved ever be held accountable? Will Adrianna become another case where questions remain unanswered in a system that, according to some, may protect influential people while families continue to seek solace? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Until next time, friends.